and was crazy, and had keyed. When I was saying no, and keyed James' car up.
Oh Lord, yes she
Watch
did.
out, Ann.
And used to cut a hole in every one of James' shirts.
Yeah, she did. Lord,
And was scratching paper and was angry and was trying not to she was wicked. And thank God she delivered free. But that's how I was as a youth. As a youth.
My God.
I was suicidal because I felt worthless. I felt like, at 7 years old, not 7, maybe, I don't know how old I was, but I remember my biological father asking me if I wanted to live with him. But I didn't have a relationship with him. I didn't know him. And even though I visited him, I was often dropped off to whatever woman he was dating, and he would go off to work. So when he asked me if I wanted to live with him, I said no, because I didn't know you. But then I asked to live with him at 13. When life got real hard and we just, went through eviction after eviction and things was happening, I called him and I said, can I live with you? And he said, baby girl, work it out. You'll be okay. And that crushed me. That crushed me. And I have a stepbrother, whom he take care of and he grew up with his wife. And that crushed me, and I felt like, dang, I felt worthless even more. And then I'm like, then I felt like I missed my opportunity. Like you asked me when I was younger and I said no, and I missed my opportunity. But then I'm like, you let a child make a decision. If you felt like that was best for me to do, you should have manned up and got custody of me or took me. But then I asked you, you turned me away. You turned me away. And you know what happened when your father turns you away and pays you no attention? You do what? You tend to start looking at love in other places.
That's right.
And chasing after anything that's going to tell you something sweet in your ear and make you feel good. That's what begins to happen. And that was, and I did. And I was like, wow. And then God kept showing me it's more dysfunctions. I was like, okay. And I was 7 years old when I witnessed my god sister about to get raped. And we was coming from school. We went to Pleasant Ridge, and we was coming from school. We was walking from, you remember the woods on the hilltop? You, instead of walking all the way up the hill, you would walk through and we did that. All the kids would do that. And a gang of guys came out and pushed her down. And I remember being right there with these tears and trying to figure out what I could do, and she just kept telling me, run, Tiffany, run. Go get some help. And I'm standing right there frantic because it's a lot of guys. And she's like, run, Tiffany, go get some help. So I continued to run up the hill, and help came. But sometimes situations happen and then it becomes a block. You literally block out anything. I can't even tell you where I was at after that happened or anything. But what I do know is in witnessing that also played a role in how I began to feel towards men the more I felt let down by him. And then I had my own situation. And we all say, oh yeah, every woman being raped or molested. Everybody got that story. But then here's the other side of that story. Because it was a point in time where I dated guys and it was a game to me. And I didn't care how you felt. I go with you one day, break up with you the next day, and I don't care how you feel about it, and it was a game. And I dated a couple of guys that, cried, but it was like, I don't care. But it was a situation where I was on my way to my aunt's house, because that's where we was living at. And there was this guy on a bus, and we were the last two people on the number 51 that lets you off in Clifton. Or the number 17, I had to get off in Clifton so that I could transfer to the 51 to go to Avondale or whatever bus it was. And he was just talking to me, and I'm one of those people, James used to tell me all the time, like, you too friendly. And I think that was part of me hiding what I was really going through as a child. So, yeah, you're too friendly. But I was having a conversation. I made conversation with the gentleman. And he was just telling me how he just got out of jail and different things like that. And I'm like, oh, Lord. And I knew when I got off of the bus and I saw him get off of the bus, I was like, this is about to be one of them. I already knew it. And it was dark. It wasn't nobody. Like, it was dark. It wasn't nobody out there. And I had to walk my route to get to the bus stop. And I already knew it. And you know what I did? I gave in. Out of fear. And it was in that moment that something changed in me after feeling like, because I'm scared, this is what I'm going to do. And I gave in. I just stood there like, I already know what's getting ready to happen. But what I don't want to happen is I be one of these girls on the street or abused and beat up, and then my aunt and my mom looking for me and I never came back home. I didn't want that to be my story. So I gave in. Tall dude, and I'm just this little 14-year-old girl. And I gave in. And when it was done, and I remember being on the bus and crying, and I remember walking to my aunt's house. I didn't say nothing, but she kind of sensed like something ain't right. And I got in the bath and I wanted to kill myself. And I was angry and I was hurt and I was pissed off because I'm like, I didn't fight. I was afraid of what was going to happen. So I gave in. I never seen that person out. Gave in. I gave in. So the way it shaped me in my adulthood is because then I start feeling like I hated that word of submission. You gotta submit to a man. I hated it. You gotta do this to a man. You gotta, I hated it. Because I had already felt like I had to give myself to something out of fear that I had. That was valuable to me, that I feared. And then I gotta submit to this man. My daddy wasn't nothing, my stepdaddy wasn't nothing. I ain't never been around no man that was nothing. And then I started experiencing a lot of anger as I got older. I became so angry. Like James would talk about to me, that girl Tiffany that I met, she was way different, but I got so angry as an adult, at everything. I was angry that I smiled when the lights was off. I was angry that I smiled when we was evicted. I was angry. I was smiling every time we had to put our stuff in storage. The storage bill didn't get paid and we lost everything and had to keep on starting over. I was so angry that as an adult, all that came out. I went nuts. I was unstable. I didn't care. I was careless. It changed me. It changed me. I went nuts. And I had all this anger. And it was like, Lord, where is it? Well, I knew where it came from, but it was just like, why now? Wait till I become an adult and then just expose yourself and come on out. And that's what it was. That's what it was. Like, my stepdad, he was real good at whooping you. He whooped you real good. That's all I remember out of him is whoopings. I mean, bruised whoopings. I remember getting whooped so bad, and they still sent me to school, and I was trying to sit down on a chair. Jesus. And it hurted so bad. It hurted so bad. He was that person that wanted to whoop you in the same spot a million freaking times, like, to make sure you was gonna feel it. Like, he go get his thickest leather belt, lick it, put it in the refrigerator freezer sometimes, so when he whoop you, like,
wow.
And I remember my friend looked at me and she said, "What's wrong?" And I just bawled tears. I couldn't even keep it in no longer. I was like, "Girl, I'm hurting. I am hurting." And that's what I remember out of him. And then my dad told me, "No, baby girl, work it out. You'll be okay." Like, so I just didn't have me and role models. And then I had to, out of fear, just gave myself away to this stranger that I didn't know. Like, so I was like frustrated with men. Frustrated with the word submission. Frustrated, even, like, it just, and I have gone through those times, even being married with James, I have gone through those times where I felt like, well, I don't feel like it, and now he's forcing me, and now I gotta go do it because I'm married to him. And I have felt like that because of how I felt just having to give myself away to somebody out of fear. Like, and it's just misplaced anger. It was a lot of misplaced anger. And so, growing up, and then you hear about mental health, and you hear how real stuff is. And I saw the therapist. And I had saw the therapist. And the therapist, they ask you a series of questions. And a lot of the questions also relate to your childhood. And it was the first time that I was like, Tiffany, be honest.
Come on.
Because what played an I'm okay role often. But I had to tell myself, if we're going to do this for real, be honest. And I was honest throughout the whole process. And she said, I want you to see the nurse. I was like, what? And I was against seeing a nurse because I always had this weird thing that with pills, it was gonna make me even more suicidal or something like that. But she said, I want you don't have to, but I really want you to see the nurse because my depression and my anxiety numbers
Come on now.
was maxed out. Maxed out. And I was like, Tiffany, you was honest.
Come on.
You answered the questions honestly. And this is what it is. This is what it is. And so yeah, Prophetess Tiffany, who just has to be Tiffany sometimes.
Come on, say that.
Come on.
Come on. Yeah, ain't nothing wrong with it.
Sees a therapist and is medicated. Because my depression and my anxiety from childhood traumas.
All right, open it up.
From self-inflicted wounds and traumas has depression and anxiety. And so, how has those things shaped my adulthood? I'm seeing a therapist and I'm medicated. How has those things shaped my adulthood? This is my second time being married to my husband because I left my first marriage and started dating women because of anger and other things that I couldn't explain then. How has it shaped my adulthood? I have caused my children emotional abuse. How, Tiffany? Doesn't look like it. Because they came to let me know that every time you pack your bags like you're going to leave. Because it's easy to walk away from stuff sometimes. And every time that him and I had gotten into it, and every time I pack my bags and I say, I'll just go, that it reminds them of when they was taken from my custody and before. That it's a repeat cycle. And we gotta do this again. And my son had shared with me one day, he said, when you were gone, I thought you were never coming back. And I would not know what I would do if you wasn't here. So I had to realize that even just by the little things that I do that I think or thought was good or healthy was actually causing them emotional abuse. Because it's abuse. If it keep happening and it's cycling over and over and over and over and over again, and they've had to experience it at this size and then see it at this size and see it at this size, it's abuse. So I'm getting help. And that's how I'm overcoming. And therapist was the last thing that I had tried. The last thing. But it was like, if we're going to do this for real. When I gave God my yes.
Come
It
on.
was like, if we're going to do this for real, I have to get a whole healing.
Yes.
And I don't blame my parents for everything, because sometimes as children, we see things in one way and it's not always that.
Say that.
But what I do wish for, and I think this is a problem that I have too with me, is I communicate too much with my children.
All right.
And the reason I communicate too much with my children is because I didn't have communication with my parents growing up. So things that I may and should not communicate with them, I may overshare and communicate because of the fact that I didn't have that communication. Being that child that wanted to communicate with a parent and didn't have that. So, we even have to be careful with that. The way that we do things sometimes. But that is just some of the things that I was exposed to and how those affect me today that I'm overcoming and walking out.
Come on, y'all give it up for Prophetess, my daughter, Tiffany Hunter. Come on, y'all give it up.